Hello, welcome to Tea with Melly. I'm delighted to have Jane Lovas with us on the show today. Jane is an author. She's also the CEO and she's the founder of Lovas Consulting. And she also created recently Sage. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, Molly, thanks for having me. I love being here and love talking with you.
I'd like to start out by something we have in common. We wrote a book together. We co-authored a book along with Akia Garnett and Tamika Bradshaw.
Right.
And that was almost 3 years ago. Can you believe it?
It's hard to believe that, isn't it?
Seen and Sustain. So what has that experience led you to now? I know that you're now a two-time author with your new book, but what was that process like, writing that type of book and then writing the book that you recently wrote? Can you talk a little bit about that transition and also the title of the new book?
Oh, sure, yes. When we were writing Seen and Sustained, what was so fun and such a challenge was 4 women getting together to write one book. And you know, what's become very common is anthologies with a number of authors writing a section of a book. This was the 4 of us actually writing this book together, and all of us putting in our 2 cents or 5 cents or whatever we wanted to put into it. And that was really unique because we were very committed to the vision of the book, which is coincidentally about vision, creating your vision and your mission.
That's
and
right.
We knew what that vision was. So it really was easy to keep all of us on track. And to me, that shows the power of a shared vision. And then the book that I wrote is called Put Your Big Girl Panties On and Kick Your Fears in the Ass.
Love it. What inspired you to come up with that title? Let's share a little bit about the process, number one, because I mean, of course, I know your personal story. You shared it with me when it first happened, but you were at a retreat, were you not?
Well, I'd spent some time that summer, this was a couple years ago, working through my fears, some fears, taking some layers of the onion off. You know, I wish I could say that all my fears were gone, but no, I was taking some layers of the onion off, and this process that I was using at the time asked you to visualize. I'm not a real good visualizer, and anybody else that has a challenge visualizing, what I did was I drew some pictures representing fears or what I was wishing for. There's a picture of the little girl in me. Can I say that if you go to my website, lovasconsulting.com, you can get a free copy of the book, so you can see these pictures that I'm talking about. And so I started sharing it, and I shared it with you, and I shared it with a couple of other folks, and I got the message that I should write a book behind the story behind it. And then when I was at this retreat that you mentioned, I shared it with my roommate down there, and she said, this is really great. You need to publish this book. You need to share this. You need to create a book. And I said, oh yeah, and what am I going to call the book? How to get rid of your fears or something? And she said, no, something like how to put your big girl panties on and kick your fears in the ass. How about that? And I said, wow, that's really cool. So we spent some time talking about that. You know, you're at a retreat, your first night, you've had a hard day, you're sitting there with your roommate that you don't know, and you're getting to know each other, and you're having a glass of wine, and we started sharing. And so after we were talking about that, then she started sharing some things with me. What I knew her as was a dog trainer from Colorado.
Okay.
So I felt very safe sharing my pictures and telling this story to her. After that, she tells me that she used to be a fashion illustrator in New York. And I thought, I told her, I said, if I had known that, I would never have shared these drawings with you. So I'm glad I didn't know. But on the other hand, what it was reaffirming for me was the power that those drawings had in them, that she was able to see that. Not that they're great art by any means, but they have power to them.
Yeah. Did any of them surprise you, your illustrations?
What surprised me was the clarity that actually did come out of them. And there's a little one of my ego that's like this little gremlin jumping up and down and stuff. And that's exactly kind of what I feel when my ego's, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me.
What do you hope will happen when somebody reads not just the title of the book, but actually reads the entire book? And it's an easy read. It's not 500 pages long. It's a small book, and it's very amusing. You'll laugh. You'll identify with it, because I did. I saw your drawings, and I was like, that's totally what I would have drawn about some of the fears. We have similar fears. So what are some of the hopes that you have for this book, or for the reader, actually, when they're reading through?
Well, as you said, identifying, because what so many of us have, and what I found for me, is I'm not really aware of what those fears are. I have the fear, and what I also wanted was, once you recognize the fear, then have some steps. And I've got that, and we'll talk later about some new work that I'm doing on releasing fears and limiting beliefs, because we really can't move forward in our lives. If we're entrepreneurs wanting to create a business, and we've got this great vision, and we are telling everyone, and I did this too. This is, was my life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this blog article. I'm going to do that, whatever it is. And we find ourselves doing everything but that. And so what my hope is, what my intention is that by reading that book, it gives you a safe place to start saying, I've got some fears. Okay, Jane was willing to share her fears. Let me look and see where my fears are. What am I afraid of? And then start working on them. And I was reading something the other day, and somebody said, identify your fears and just let them go. And that, I almost cringe when I hear that, because sometimes you can just let a fear go, and sometimes you need to do work.
Most of the time you need to do work.
Yes. And so what's the work you have to do? Well, that's part of what I share in the book and with this other work that I do.
Well, I hope people check it out, because it's a brilliant book. And it is. It's fun. It's not
hard.
It's not heavy. It's fun. And that's really, learning is easier when you have visual aid and that it's amusing at the same time. So you've been in corporate for a long time, and then you jumped into the world of consulting, and you then put on your consulting hat and went back into corporate and helped a lot of corporate executives and leaders figure out not only business operations, systems, all of that great stuff. And now with Lovas Consulting, you're doing a lot more hard work. What's the personal transformation like for you? You were in corporate for so long, were trained to be a certain way, to behave a certain way. You come out here, you take a look back, and you're like, oh, there's something definitely missing. So what has to change in me in order to actually help these leaders? So I want to kind of focus back on these last several years of you being able to be more vulnerable, you being able to shed the fears and sharing it. How has that been? Has it been pretty, like, snap a finger easy for you, or have you been fighting tooth and nail to do it? Where are you at now?
I have been fighting tooth and nail. And, there's this saying, the overnight success, 10 years in the making. Because what we don't see is all the work that somebody has to do before and then all of a sudden they sort of pop on the scene. And that's been happening to me. I know a number of other people they've spent time in that transformation. And sometimes things keep moving along, and other times you feel like you're slogging through mud. And, you've heard the saying that don't give up because success is right around the corner if you're doing the right thing, that is. Because sometimes the right thing is to give up because you're not doing the right thing. But when you're really following your passion and you're doing the work and you're still just trudging along, it's really time to take a look at what's holding you back. And really, it's all the stuff up here in our mind that holds us back. And for me, like you said, I was in corporate, large consulting firms, worked as a consultant, 2 large consulting firms, so on both sides of the table. And very much and I was also in technology.
That's right.
As a software developer and a project manager, so very much a left brain environment. In fact, the first time I took the Myers-Briggs, I came out with that typical engineer technology, ISTJ, and that's who I thought I was. And I thought I was an introvert. I thought I was very technical, that I had to know everything. I still have to know everything. That hasn't gone away. And really, it was the writing the book.
We're here with Jane Lovas, and we'll be right back.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's the people. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? Because love has no labels.
Hi, welcome back to Tea with Molly. We're back with Jane Lovas. Jane, you were just starting to tell us about the book and what you learned in the process.
Right. When I started writing the book, what I realized was actually how creative I really was. I had pushed that side away because I was the technical person. I had been a software developer, very, very much in that engineering technology space. Totally let go of I was creative. In fact, if people asked me, was I creative? I'd say, no, I'm not really creative.
Yeah. Well, what do you do when you have an assessment that tells you you're X, Y, and Z, and then you start to evolve as a person, your business starts to change, you have become more clear around your vision and your mission for where you want to go, and still your mind is stuck and holding on to, yeah, but I'm analytical, and so I can't be anything else. Mm-hmm. So how did you have to talk yourself out of that belief system and, again, let go of existing beliefs so that you can be more of who you are?
Well, what was kind of funny was I was actually at another event. A friend of mine had put on it was a class, and I was there as a participant, and one of the other participants in the program asked me, "Are you ready to give up your technology hat?" I was like, oh, because we were talking about what our visions were and what we were seeing, and what I was seeing with working with women entrepreneurs and empowering them. And I knew that business was a part of it, but I hadn't thought about, I have to really relook at who I am. And when she asked that was a very groundbreaking question, because when I said yes, that's when a lot of things started falling into place. Nothing changed, but things started falling into place.
That's beautiful.
And it's amazing
That's
how
beautiful how you said that. Yeah. Nothing changed. What did you say again?
nothing changed, but things started falling into place. So it wasn't like overnight there was, lightning and rain and all this stuff, but I would notice things starting to happen.
That's right. Well, so Lovas Consulting started to evolve then when this happened in your brain.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm willing to let go of technology if I have to, because whatever feels right, whatever makes sense now, is the direction I have to take. So what is Lovas Consulting all about now? Over the past few years, you've made some tweaks. And so talk a little bit about your programs.
Sure. Life, as you said, evolves and makes by tweaks. And now that I'm far enough ahead of it that I can look back and see, oh, this is where I was. Now I am someplace different. And now I'm really focused on working with women entrepreneurs that are overwhelmed. And what I see for them is I want to help them shortcut the journey that I've been on. So working on their mindset, helping them let go of those limiting beliefs that say, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. When we can get rid of those limiting beliefs, we can do amazing things because we're not comparing ourselves to others. And then the other piece that I know for most entrepreneurs is they don't know how to plan. They're all over the place. They're doing everything. And what I call this is the power of one. We were talking about this earlier. Picking one piece of your business, one audience, one marketing, picking one and sticking to it. And so that strategy of how you're going to do that, and then taking action, because all the strategy is no good if you don't take action.
I think that's an area that a lot of business owners, and especially the new entrepreneurs, I should say, the startups, and maybe even the ones that are just a few years in, it's that desire to survive. It's the desire to make sure this is a success, and whatever that success is, sometimes it just means not going bankrupt or not falling apart. But a lot of people don't have the strategy, and if they do have a strategy and they have a plan, it has 50 different things on it.
Right.
So it's very difficult to know which one do I focus on. So can you talk about how do we go about uncovering the overarching theme and then zeroing in on which area should I be focusing on? What are some of the requirements and elements that allow you to kind of say, okay, that's the one I want to focus on?
Well, we step back to the work that we did in Seen and Sustained, and a program that I recently released called Creating Your North Star, because it's that North Star that gives you direction. And that takes into account your purpose, your passion, what's the vision that you see. And I will always remember when you said the clearest way to remember the difference between your vision and your mission is to add AIRY to the end. I still use that. Think of what a visionary does. Visionaries got big dreams, big picture that's not always even realistic, but that's that big dream. If the world could look how I wanted it, this is how it would look. And then your mission, the missionary. Down there doing the work. Right. So what is the work you're doing to get to that vision? Even if you never get there, because it's so big, what are you doing to get to your part? And then what are the areas of your business? And this is where, especially small businesses, women, entrepreneurs and small businesses fall down, is they want to do everything. And in Seen and Sustained, and in the work I do with Creating Your North Star, recommend one, if you're a startup, maybe 2 if you've been in business a little bit longer, and 3 at the max.
Right.
3 service or functional areas, however you want to look at them. And those are the areas that generate revenue. And then what I add to that in the SAGE program, where we start actually creating the strategy for how you're going to move forward, is the one need that all small businesses is they need more clients, because it's clients that generate revenue. So if we look at that as within the vision and the mission, the focus is, how do I get more clients? So you have to look at, who are your clients? And pick one client.
Right.
And
One avatar, one
one-
demographic,
yeah.
one group. Mhm.
Yes.
That's so hard, Jane. Jane, that is so hard, because it was so hard when you were trying to figure out who you wanted to focus on. And I think it's not just Jane. I think Jane represents a lot of businesses that are just starting off. How can I niche when I'm just trying to get any client through the door? So I cannot niche. I cannot miss any opportunities. And yet we learned over time that when you're trying to target so many people, that you don't really, again, have your own identity, and you don't even know who you're attracting, because you haven't really created a strong brand, because you don't know who you want to attract. It's just this vicious circle.
Exactly. How can you attract anyone? Everyone's my client.
Yeah.
I can work with anyone. I can solve any problem. And I know I sort of had that mentality, major, when I first started, because in business, that's what I did.
Yep.
You know, I worked in a lot of industries. I did a lot of things. I solved a lot of problems. But people don't buy problem solvers. They
Right.
buy a result.
They do.
And you have to know who you're trying to sell to, so that you can find out what result it is that they're looking for. And that's the getting to that result becomes your program that you're going to that you create. And so again, with looking for more clients, when you have one program, you now know who's interested in that program and what the result is. So the middle piece to that is the avenue that you pick to go find them. So how are you going to find them? Pick one. Are you a great network? You love going out, doing in-person networking? Then pick that. Is speaking really one of your skills? Pick that. Are you really good on the internet and you can attract people that way? Pick that. But pick one and get really good at it.
It's a great lesson, because I think many of us, and me included, we love so many things, and we have passions for lots of different things. And what happens when we don't focus and we don't choose that one, maximum 2 areas of focus, right? And then the activities is one goal a day, just being able to, like you said, with clarity and focus, you actually can move much further, much faster. I think it's a struggle for a lot of business owners. I think it's a struggle for many of the creative entrepreneurs I work with. On top of being an entrepreneur, they're also creatives, and it's just the shiny, bright object. So, that is definitely a challenge. How do you, are there habits that you have formed? Are there systems in place for you that allow you to say, I'm getting off track, come back. I'm going to focus on one thing. What do you do?
Yes. Two things is, one is declaring what that focus is, and I've stopped using the word goal, because I found for me and a few other people, goal brings up the hackles and all the limiting beliefs around goals and accomplishing goals. And when I started talking about, okay, so what do you want to focus on for the next 90 days? Oh, okay, I want to focus on this. And the piece to remember is it's always in alignment with getting more clients. So is it, I want to focus on getting more speaking engagements so that I can get more clients. So the focus comes under the framework of getting more clients. That's really easy, because then that focus allows you to say no. no, this is not going to take me there. The other piece, because I'm one of those shiny object kind of girls, a new idea comes and I am ready to, I'm halfway down the block before somebody says, no. I have started what I call the later project list. And I finally, I've heard about doing this and I just, no. And I started doing it. Started writing down all those projects that I want to do someday.
The later project list.
The later project list. And I can go back and look at that when I think I have time. And there are some things on that list that I definitely know that I want to do, but I haven't forgotten them. But I don't have to be thinking about them all the time. And that has freed up a lot of energy, a lot of space and time, and by not thinking about them all the time.
You mentioned your SAGE program, so I want to dive into that a little bit. What inspired you to create SAGE, and what is the program all about? What's the purpose? Who are you serving? What are you guys doing when you get together?
Well, SAGE came out of a conversation that I had. I met a woman, and so she's actually co-founder and partner and she helps me run the DC, and then I am going to be expanding it. She's part of another company, so we've partnered to create this program. And she does marketing, and she came up to me when she heard what I did and said, we've been asked to create. We've been told that our marketing is really good, but we need some more business focus underneath that marketing. We should talk. And I said, okay, let's talk. So we sat down and kind of talked through what did we think something could be. And then said, okay, let's do that.
That was that easy?
It was that. It really was. Let's try it. Let's try it. So just a little over a year ago, because we started marketing it. The first group is coming up on finishing up their first full year in the program. And what I knew the focus needed to be was on the systems that you need to do accountability and planning. So we started talking about, and this focus of one. So what we started out with was 4 marketing campaigns, 4 goals, 1 year, 0 excuses.
That's brilliant.
And
say that again.
4 marketing campaigns, because you have 4 quarters.
Right.
4 systems, 4 business goals, 1, what did I say? 4? 1 year and 0 excuses.
Okay.
So and keeping you very focused. So what we do in the program, and what I've also realized as we've gone through the program, because it's morphed as all things do, that especially that first year, is our limiting beliefs are really stop us from doing what we say we want to do. Because we'll have conversations and it's, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And it doesn't get done. And it's not that they're not capable of doing it, and I've been there myself. It's that we've got all this conversation going in our head that stops us from doing it. Even though, no matter what the intentions are, we will find something else to do. You can always research more. So we added the work on mindset and letting go of limiting beliefs. And we get together in person 1 day per quarter to put your plan together. You work on what's your strategy, what's your plan for the next 90 days. Because that's where I've struggled myself, was what am I doing for the next 90 days? And I wouldn't take, even though I knew from my background the importance of planning, I had to create a group for me. And that's, again, where some of this came from, was what do I need to support me? And if I need it, there are probably others that need it.
Right. Now, is this program designed for smaller groups? Do you have a lot of people? Is there a maximum number of people who can join in a year? And are you required to meet in person, or do you use Skype? Do you use online tools?
We use a variety of different ways. My ideal size group is 40 individuals, because I like people to be in small groups of 4 at a time. So that's 10 in the larger group, gives you some balance and some different ideas, but you get to work in a group of 4. That's in person. We do have one person that's joining us, part of the pilot program, who is doing it remotely from St. Louis, and we want to start a group out in St. Louis. Because there's a different energy for this planning and the work you do for planning and the sharing by being there in person. Then on the second and third month of the quarter, we do a coaching or a topic call. So that's you can call into that from any place. And then we've also started using a technology called huddle sessions. And we use those on the second and third month of each quarter. And that's where 4 people with a facilitator call in, and it's like a mastermind group. And so there's a variety of ways people interact. And then each person is assigned an accountability partner, and they check in to keep yourselves on track. So there's a lot of ways to keep you moving forward.
How critical is having an accountability partner? We hear it a lot. We know that word or that term is out there in the leadership space. Everyone says, get an accountability partner. Accountability partners are great. How does one go find an accountability partner? What are some of the things you need to be looking for to find the right one? Because I've had some accountability partners in the past, and I've had some when I was in the financial world, and some of them really worked, and some of them stunk.
Yeah. Yes.
So, being able to not have that much time as a busy entrepreneur or business owner, you're out there trying to run your business, and yet everyone's telling you need an accountability partner. How do you go about finding one?
Well, you start asking. And one place you ask is you ask the universe. I need an accountability partner. And the other thing is really be honest with yourself. Are you ready, and are you willing to commit? Because I've had some accountability partners where we'd forget to call. We wouldn't check in. For anybody that, just in case somebody doesn't know what an accountability partner is, an accountability partner is someone that you commit to checking in with, whether it's once a day. Some people do it every day. Some people do it once a week. Some people do it less than that, but at least once a week. And you've committed to that person, these are the activities that I'm going to do before we talk. And then they commit to you. So if you're not really committed, your accountability partners, if they're committed and you're not, they're going to get frustrated. If you're committed and they're not.
Right.
So one of the questions to ask is this as important as meeting a client?
It's a great question to ask.
That's the commitment. Because then you don't just not show up to a client meeting.
Right.
Doesn't mean they can't be changed, but you don't just not show up. And that's the same even if you're looking, say, to create your own mastermind group.
And what's a mastermind group, for those that don't know?
Is a group of 3 or 4 individuals that typically have different strengths. It's better because I don't need to talk to I talk to myself a lot.
Right.
And you get together and you share your challenges. And I created my first mastermind group about 5 years ago. And it's morphed. And that has been instrumental in my growing, because I've been able to share my challenges with a small group that know where I'm trying to go.
Right. And I like the fact that you said, 3 to 4, because mastermind groups, you can have a lot more, but personally, I also find that when you have no more than 6, I think that's really a good number, no more than 6, so that you can actually have dedicated time and enough time for each person to share and challenge one another.
Right.
So what's the difference between a mastermind group and a board of directors in terms of how we communicate, interact, the things that go on? Because I think a lot of people do get confused. Well, what's a board of director and what's a mastermind? Aren't they the same thing? They're similar.
They're very similar because they're all about looking at challenges and sharing ideas and how. The key difference is a mastermind group, as you said, it's important for each person to have time to share. Because if there's 4 of us in that mastermind, each one of us gets to share and gets that attention focused on us for however long the period of time is. And that's one of the reasons you want to keep it to a small number, because it usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes for each person.
Right. And sometimes longer.
And sometimes longer. And so if you've got 10 people, you can be there for a half day, a day, and then the time gets spread further and further apart because I can't afford to give up a day. So mine is set, so it's 2 hours. And we meet every 2 weeks. So we get that regular, and there's no excuse to not, be moving forward, because if you have nothing to bring to the group, your business better be sailing.
Right.
So the mastermind is each person gets a chance. A board of directors or an advisory board is they're focused on you. They're not bringing their challenges. So this is all about their expertise and what it is they have to bring to you to grow your business specifically.
Great, thanks for the clarification. So we talked a lot about masterminds, accountability partners, and the huddle sessions are basically a mastermind group. When people leave and they're so inspired and they do a great job, it's been a year, Sage is going well, I have put my goals down, everything. How do people sustain that excitement? What have you found typically? Do people kind of just drop off, or have they been able to have the sense of renewed energy and they can continue it? And how can they stay there? How can they stay and flow? And
well, that's the great thing about Sage, is it's structured because it is your mastermind group. It is, while it's not your board of advisors, it does help with that, and it's about your quarterly strategic planning. You don't never not need to do that. So it's really set so that you can stay in. My vision is that people will be getting the value that they need, and they'll stay in it for about 3 or 4 years, and then I've already started to envision the program that they would move into, and the reason they would move out of this, which I call the grow your business phase, is because they would start having different conversations. Our conversations are about getting more clients, getting my programs done. How do I do that? Maybe I'm bringing on a VA to do a few things. Once you start growing more and you're hiring employees, you start having different conversations, and you usually want a smaller group to be a part of it. So I see this as you stay as long as it serves your needs, and if it's not serving your needs, then I want to know what those needs are, because I know for myself, as a solopreneur, as a CEO, I always need that support from other people. We can't do it alone.
You talked a lot about groups and working with groups and having programs for groups. Do you also work with individual CEOs and visionaries and leaders? And how do you find them to be different or similar when you have a structure for a group and when you have this one-on-one time, captivated audience, and they're looking for your guidance, 100% you.
Well, and that's what they get. They get my guidance, my 2 cents, 100% focus on them, which is different than the group energy. Can be much more intense depending on the person. When I know that they're really ready to make strides, I ask a lot then. In fact, I was just on my way here. I was having a call with a client who I'm doing some one-on-one work with, and she said, because we had scheduled our call 2 weeks apart, and I just wanted to make sure she was clear that she was okay with that. She said, "Oh yeah, because I can't get done what you asked me to do in a week. I need 2 weeks to do it," because there is an expectation that you're really moving forward. You're really because I then also become part of that accountability partner that you've got.
Are you tough, Jane?
I am very, very nice, but very tough and very direct. Yeah. You know, I want to know, if you said you're not going to do it, if you said you're going to do it, why are you not doing it?
Why do you care so much?
Because I want people to have, women, especially women, to have what it took me a long time to find, that feeling of self-empowerment. And I really believe that when women are empowered and truly, as I call it, authentically confident, we're going to see a shift in the world.
Overwhelmed women. Where can you find those?
I would love to not find them.
So in terms of marketing now your business, what have been some of the challenges? And I think this is something that's very important for a lot of businesses that might be watching this. What are some of the challenges, and what have you learned through the years as you have basically succeeded in having growth and being able to expand your business? So the challenges first, and some of the tips for what has worked and what has worked really well for you.
Well, like you brought up earlier and I brought up earlier, getting clarity of who my market was. I mean, we had conversations about who's my market. How
it's like pulling teeth.
Oh yes, because I
remember.
It's like,
Box Without Borders. Remember that conversation?
Box Without Borders, and now I've got it. But I did have to put some boundaries around it, and so that I could communicate the message clearly. And so that was the success. But it was when I talk to clients and they're like, oh, but I want, I do this, and anybody would benefit from it. It's like, sure, they would. But are they open to it?
Right.
You don't want to work with clients that are resisting what you're doing. And so how can you identify the clients that are ready to work with you?
We're here with Jane Lovas, and we'll be right back.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Hi, welcome back to Tea with Molly. We're back with Jane Lovas. Well, it's been interesting for me too, growing in my own maturity as a businesswoman. The concept of pushing out your message and pulling and attracting in the right people. there's just a fine line, and you have to be very gracious when you decide to message to a market, especially starting off, because you are not quite 100% sure what your message is. And then over time, at least for me, I don't know if this happened with you, you start to have more patterns. Patterns start to show up. The types of people that you're attracting may not necessarily be, the group that you initially thought would be attracted to you. Sometimes it's an ultimate surprise. I have a lot of clients that come and say, "Wow, I thought women would be attracted to me because I'm a woman, because I'm a woman. I have these, whatever the industry they're focused in," and then they're quite surprised that they're attracting more men. So we have to look and see what's allowing that attraction, and is it a good thing or bad thing based on what you want, and how do you tweak that, and also how do you capitalize on that. Sometimes we don't even know our value, we don't even know how attractive we are, and then the external forces like our clients and consumers tell us so, and then it's like this light bulb goes up and say, "Oh, I got something special here."
Right.
So, when you're looking at that with your clients and they give you a goal and they're having a struggle to find a new client, and they tell you, "Okay, well, I think I have the right niche. I think that I'm attracting these people," and yet their book of business is slim. What do you tell them?
Well, one of the questions that I ask them is, who do they really like working with? And it's amazing. They will be focused on this one particular area of clients, and that was me. I didn't want to say women only because of my technology background. I'd managed groups that were almost all men, so I thought, I'm comfortable with working with men. Women, what? And yet, when I looked back over some of the things that I've done, the place that I really got that thrill was when I did some programs with women. And that's when I started going, okay, let's take a deep breath. And that's always such a good thing. Take a deep breath. I remember when we had to do that before I released Put Your Big Girl Panties On. That night before it was going to the printers, I was all of a sudden in a major panic about, was this title too out there?
I remember, yeah.
And calling and emailing and everyone and going, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I need to soften the title.
You didn't want to say ass?
I didn't want to say ass in public,
Buttocks? It didn't work, it didn't sound as sexy.
It didn't work. And then Tamika sent an email to me, one of our co-authors of Seen and Sustained, and she said, "Jane, you wanted it to be a take notice title. You wanted people to take notice and pay attention." I was like, yes. Because if they don't take notice, if they don't pay attention to it, it won't have had the impact.
I think the majority of the survey, the people that you surveyed, came back with keep it as is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Follow your instincts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the first place that I had to say the title was at a leadership breakfast. I mean, this is the first place I chose. Nobody was making me, but I chose. That typically has about 100 people there, and typically 80 to 90% of them are men. So this is when the opportunity to stand in your truth, because I knew that it was the right title. And I stood up and said it, and the whole room just broke into laughter. And it was a very kind laughter.
Right.
It was not a nervous laughter like, oh, what is she saying? It was a very kind laughter. And so the guy after me that was getting ready to say his name had to wait until all that laughter died down, and then he said, "I didn't bring my big girl panties." So of course it started up again, and that was so great because it broke the ice.
Yeah. We've had a few authors here on the show, and it's amazing. We have a similar experience when it comes to writing something so personal that reflects our deep, deep stories of our lives, and we put it on paper, and then it gets released to the world. Because you have no idea now who's read it, where they are in the world. And there's this purging that happens. And I tell you, it's transformative. I mean, I felt with A Million Fireflies when I released it that there was nothing that could stop me. There were no more, layers or walls protecting me. It was out there. Now I can just be free to live. Can you resonate with what I'm saying? Because your book is completely about letting go of fears. Have you seen a change by just releasing your fears like that in public?
I did, and I didn't.
You did and you didn't. Okay. Okay. How did you not? And then we'll end up with how did you?
Saying that helped me release my persona of who I thought I had to be. Where I didn't get, and what I started doing the work on, and I've done a lot of work, was those fears that were underneath that by trying to be who I thought I needed to be, I had pushed those fears down. And there were some fears over the last 6 or 8 months that I started releasing, because there were things in my business that were still challenging me. And one of those is making phone calls. I do not like making phone calls, which is really important when you're trying to grow your business. And what I realized was that I had this underlying belief that if I could not figure it out, that it was not possible for me to do it. And as I was like, where did that come from? What? And I looked at all the places in my life where I had figured things out. And now, I know it sounds kind of funny to say this because we always get help. We go to school and we have teachers. I wasn't talking about that kind of help, because I did a lot of help. I did a lot of reading and stuff on how to make phone calls, how to network, how to do cold calling, how to do warm call, all of these things, and they just didn't help. So I did what I knew, how the traditional way to learn was not working. And I realized that I couldn't figure it out. So that meant it was impossible for me to learn it. Well, do you know what that does?
Yeah, it stalls everything in your life.
Makes things really hard.
Yeah. How do you release? You just said you've been for the past 6 to 8 months. How do you release? What are some of the steps? These are tips for the audience. I know we're coming close to the end here, so I want to make sure that there's some takeaways. We're talking about fears. We're talking about these existing beliefs, old belief systems. Personally, how do you let them go?
Well, I have 2 ways. One is the shower.
Me too.
Because that's where this realization came from. And so the shower is always good for realization. Is, you're like, okay, why? What's going on? Not why is this happening to me, but what's going on? And then the shower just seems to allow your mind to the thoughts to come to your mind. And then the releasing it, there's some work that I've started doing again. I'd done it years ago, and somebody else reintroduced it, my marketing coach that I've been working with. And it's work by Byron Katie. And the process has been modified a little bit to be more business centric.
For those that don't know, Byron Katie is an author, and she wrote Loving What Is.
Yes, and her basic
and many other books.
question is, what's the situation? Is this true? And then what we've taken is, what do I do when I think it's true? So what are those behaviors that you do? All that research, all the clean kitchen. I get a really clean kitchen when I'm trying to avoid something. What's it costing me? Because those when we don't do things, what's the cost of it? And then, who would I be and how would I act if I could no longer believe this? And when you go through those, I don't know what those questions do, but there is a power that happens when you write those answers down.
Sometimes it's just being able to see it,
Yeah.
being able to admit to yourself, to put a name to it or a phrase to it, and just recognize that it's there, right?
Yep.
Just recognize that this
Yeah.
is what's happening inside. So, wow, this is fascinating. We haven't had a conversation like this in a long time, so I feel like we're in we are in my living room, but I feel like we're just having this conversation.
I know. Very personal get-together conversation that the whole world gets to sit in on, and
That's awesome. Well, tell the whole world how they can find you. Where can we look for you on social media? What's your website, etc.?
well, my website is www.lovas, that's L-O-V as in Victor, A-S, consulting.com. To make it really easy, you can go to kickyourfears.com, and that'll take you to my website.
That's great.
And the program name is SAGE, for anyone that just wants to even see what, how can you work together?
And don't forget to get the copy of her book on her website.
Yep.
So you're making it free and available. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Jane, it was lovely to have you as always. We'll
Thank
have to
you.
think about another project to work on, maybe another book to write soon.
Oh, yes.
And you'll come back on the show, of course, right?
Of course, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Molly.
again. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Tea with Molly, and we will see you next time.